Have you ever felt a shift in your relationship with your children? One day, you realize that your advice is no longer heeded, your opinions are dismissed, or even worse, you feel like you become a burden in their lives. This feeling is like a knife to the heart, making you wonder, what happened? Don't worry, you're not alone. This is a common stage in family life, when the roles between parents and children gradually change. But the good news is, you can absolutely change the situation. No need for heated arguments. No need for bitter recriminations. In this video, we will explore together 6 powerful breakthroughs, simple changes in the way you react that can help you regain your children's respect and rebuild a more sustainable and loving family relationship. Let's start this journey together. Step 1. Stop chasing approval. One of the biggest mistakes parents often make, especially as they get older, is trying too hard to please their children. You might notice yourself doing this. You're always trying to meet their every request, saying yes when you really want to say no, putting their needs above your own. You hope that if you do enough, they will appreciate you more. But the harsh truth is, the more you chase their approval, the less they respect you. Respect is not built on self-sacrifice. It's built on self-respect. When you're always yielding, always compliant, always trying to keep the peace, you're teaching your children that your feelings don't matter. And once they start believing that, it's easy for them to take you for granted. Take the story of Margaret, a strong and independent woman in her younger years. But as she got older, she started letting her children make all the decisions. She rearranged her schedule to fit their needs, kept silent about her opinions, and even ignored the disrespectful way they talked to her. "I just want to keep the family peaceful," she used to tell me. But what happened? Margaret's children stopped valuing her. They saw her as someone who was always adjusting, always agreeing, always silent. She thought she was keeping the peace, but in reality, she was losing her voice. If your children don't respect you, the first step isn't to demand respect. It's to stop acting like you need it. Set boundaries. Say no when you need to. Express your opinions, even if they don't like what you have to say. Because the moment you start respecting yourself, they'll start seeing you differently. And over time, that respect will come back to you. I find that stopping chasing approval from your children is not easy. It requires a major change in our thinking and behavior. We must learn to love and appreciate ourselves first, instead of seeking validation from others. Step 2. Don't argue. Lead by example. When your children dismiss your opinions, talk over you, or treat you with disrespect, your first reaction might be to argue. You want to remind them of all you've done for them, demand that they listen to you. But trust me, that will only leave you more frustrated. Arguing never works. Think about it. When was the last time you convinced someone to respect you by arguing? Respect isn't something you win with words. It's built with presence, with how you carry yourself, with how you react when people test your patience. If you respond to disrespect with anger, all you're doing is confirming what they already believe, that they have power over you. I know Frank, a retired teacher, who spent his whole life leading a classroom with confidence. But at home, his grown children began to treat him as an afterthought. They ignored his advice, dismissed his concerns, and sometimes even mocked him when he tried to guide them. At first, Frank argued back, trying to prove that yourself. Hold your dignity. Speak with confidence. And most importantly, never stoop to their level. Because when you hold your ground with grace, they'll feel it. And over time, they'll follow suit. I believe that leading by example is the best way to teach children about respect. Instead of just talking, we need to show respect in all our actions and words. Step 3. Let go of emotional dependence. One of the hardest lessons we have to learn as we get older is that we can't depend on our children for emotional fulfillment. You may love them deeply, and you may want them to love and respect you. But the moment they sense you need them to feel valuable, the power balance in the relationship shifts. The reality is, people, including your children, respect those who are emotionally independent. When you rely on them for validation, love, or attention, it puts pressure on them. And instead of feeling grateful, they start to feel burdened. They may distance themselves from you, treat you with impatience, or even resentment. And the more you chase their love, the less they give it freely. I used to know Helen, a kind mother who gave her children everything. As they grew up and got busy with their own lives, she found herself waiting by the phone, hoping they would call. When they didn't, she called them, often excessively. She reminded them how much she missed them, how she wished they would visit more often. But instead of pulling them closer, it pushed them away. They started to see her calls as an obligation, rather than something they looked forward to. Then one day, Helen did something different. She stopped waiting. She stopped calling first. Instead, she started focusing on herself, finding new hobbies, going out with friends, taking care of her own happiness. And a surprising thing happened. Her children started calling more. They started to respect her time, seeing her as someone who had a full life of her own. The lesson is simple. The less you depend on your children to make you feel needed, the more they'll start to value your presence. When you show them that you can stand on your own 2 feet, they'll start to respect you, not out of obligation, but because they genuinely admire the life you've built for yourself. Letting go of emotional dependence on children is a long and difficult process. It requires us to seek joy and meaning in life from other sources instead of just focusing on family. Step 4. Set boundaries and enforce them. One of the biggest reasons children lose respect for their parents is because the parents allow it to happen. If you allow your children to talk to you disrespectfully, dismiss your opinions, or treat you as if your time and feelings don't matter, they will continue to do it. Not because they're bad people, but because everyone, especially family, will always treat you the way you allow. Setting boundaries isn't about cutting off your children or creating conflict. It's about calmly and firmly deciding what kind of behavior you will and will not accept. And more importantly, it's about enforcing those boundaries when they're crossed. I remember Robert, a retired businessman, who spent his whole life running a company with discipline and confidence. But when it came to his grown children, he struggled. They interrupted him when he spoke, dismissed his concerns, and even criticized the way he lived his life. At first, he tolerated it. He told himself it wasn't worth the argument. But over time, he realized that every time he stayed silent, he was teaching them that their behavior was acceptable. So one day, Robert changed his approach. When his son interrupted him, he calmly said, "I'll continue speaking when you're ready to listen." When his daughter dismissed his opinion, he simply replied, "You don't have to agree with me, but I expect you to respect me." And when they continued to push his limits, he made it clear that if they couldn't treat him with basic respect, he wouldn't spend time with them. And you know what happened? They started listening. At first, they pushed back, but over time, they realized that their father wasn't budging. They saw that he valued himself enough to demand respect. And because of that, they began to give him that respect. If your children don't respect you, it's time to ask yourself, are you allowing it to happen? Because if you don't set boundaries, they won't set them for you. And if you don't stand up for yourself, no one else will. I find that enforcing boundaries with children can be a challenge, especially when we're used to pampering and meeting all their requests. However, this is an important step to rebuild respect in the family. Step 5. Stop giving without appreciation. One of the fastest ways to lose respect is to keep giving to people who don't appreciate it. And as parents, we do this more often than we realize. We give our time, our energy, our support, even when it's not acknowledged, even when it's taken for granted, even when we only receive demands in return. But the truth is, when you give to someone who doesn't appreciate it, you're not building love. You're not building respect. You're building expectation. They stop seeing your kindness as something valuable and start seeing it as something they're entitled to. And the moment you stop, they don't feel grateful. They feel inconvenienced. I used to know George, a father who was always generous with his children. He helped them financially whenever they needed it, dropped everything to support them, and even rearranged his life to fit their needs. But instead of gratitude, he only received complaints. They didn't say thank you. They expected more. And worst of all, when he finally needed their help, they were too busy. So one day, George changed. He stopped overextending himself. He stopped offering help before it was asked for. And most importantly, he started saying no when he needed to. At first, his children were frustrated. They didn't understand why he wasn't indulging them anymore. But over time, something changed. They started to value his time. They started to appreciate his efforts, because suddenly they realized that his generosity wasn't infinite. It was a gift, not a guarantee. If you feel like your children don't respect your time, effort, or kindness, take a step back. Ask yourself, are you giving more than you should? And if so, what would happen if you stopped? Because when you teach people that your generosity is conditional upon respect, they will start treating it that way. I think that stopping giving without appreciation doesn't mean we become selfish or stingy. It just means we need to be smarter in giving and make sure that what we give is appreciated and used in a meaningful way. Step 6, build a life outside of family. One of the most powerful ways to regain your children's respect is to show them that your happiness doesn't revolve around them. As parents, it's natural to dedicate ourselves to our children, making them the center of our lives. But as we get older, that dynamic changes. And if you've spent your whole life prioritizing them, they might start seeing you as someone who has nothing else to do. People respect those who have their own purpose, their own hobbies, their own sense of fulfillment. And if your children see that you're relying on them for entertainment, validation, or meaning, they might start to feel suffocated. Or worse, they might start to see you as someone who doesn't have a life of their own. I knew Eleanor, a widow in her 70s. After her husband died, she poured everything into the lives of her children, constantly checking in, offering advice they didn't ask for, expecting them to fill the void that her husband used to fill. But instead of pulling them closer, it pushed them away. They visited less, their calls became shorter, and Eleanor felt more lonely than ever. Then, she made a choice. She joined a book club. She started traveling with friends. She volunteered at a local community center. She stopped making her children the center of her world. And an amazing thing happened. Her children started reaching out more. They were curious about what she was doing. They admired her independence. They respected her. If your children don't respect you, ask yourself, do they see you as someone who has a full and meaningful life? Or do they see you as someone who's waiting for their attention? Because when you show them that you're living, not just existing, they'll start to see you in a completely different light. I think that building a life outside of family is essential to maintaining balance and happiness in our lives. It also helps us become better parents because we can bring more diverse experiences and perspectives to our children. Respect isn't something you can demand from your children. It's something you inspire through how you carry yourself, through how you set boundaries, and through how you live your life. If they've started treating you with less care, less consideration, or less respect, don't waste your energy on anger. Instead, change your approach. Stop chasing their approval, because the less you need it, the more they'll give it. Lead by example, because your dignity speaks louder than your words. Withdraw your emotional dependence, because the more self-sufficient you are, the more they'll respect your presence. Set boundaries, because people will only treat you as well as you require them to. Stop giving without appreciation, because when generosity is taken for granted, it loses its value. And most importantly, build a life outside of them, because people respect those who have their own purpose, their own joy, and their own sense of fulfillment. If you do these things, an amazing thing will happen. Your children will start to see you in a different light, not as someone who's waiting for their attention, but as someone who commands respect simply by being themselves. And over time, that respect will come back to you, not because you demanded it, but because you've earned it. Thank you for joining us today. We would love to hear from you. Please leave a comment below and share one thing you learned today and how you plan to use in your life. Your thoughts are important to us, so feel free to share them. Reading your comments brings us tremendous motivation and encouragement. If you liked this video and found it helpful, please like, subscribe, and share. Your support helps us continue creating great content to inform and inspire you. Thank you for watching, and we look forward to seeing you in the next video. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss any new videos from our channel.